My name is Claire. I'm 39 years old, and I've spent the past 17 years building a life with the man I thought I'd grow old with. His name is Marcus, dependable, loyal, good on paper. And for a long time, he was good in all the ways that mattered. But the truth is, and I hate saying this out loud, I don't know if I even recognize myself anymore. Not the way I was back then. Not the woman he married. I used to be the kind of person who laughed easily, touched often. I would catch his eye across a room and feel that little flutter in my stomach. That stupid, wonderful thing we always assume will last. And maybe it does, for some people. For us, it started slipping quietly. At first, I thought it was just time doing what time does. We got busy. Careers. Mortgages. 2 kids. The usual chorus of middle-class noise. We still kissed goodnight, but sometimes it was more like brushing teeth, a habit, not a desire. The first time I really noticed the shift, it was a Sunday morning. Marcus brought me coffee in bed, something he used to do when we were first married. He leaned in to kiss my forehead, and I smiled, but I didn't feel it. Not inside. It wasn't bad. That's the part that makes this whole thing harder to talk about. If Marcus had been cruel or careless, maybe I could justify what I ended up doing. But he wasn't. He was kind. Steady. Predictable in a way that felt like safety for a long time. Until that safety started feeling like a cage. I remember one night, maybe 2 years ago, we were curled up on the couch watching some show we always half-watched while scrolling on our phones. He pulled me closer, like he always did, but I felt this sudden chill run through me. His arms were around me, but my body didn't respond. I just sat there, stiff, pretending. And I know how that sounds. But it wasn't about the lack of love. It was about the lack of being seen. Over the years, something happened. I stopped telling him things. Not big things, just the little stuff. Like how sometimes I cried after sex and didn't know why. Or how I would sit in the car for a few extra minutes after grocery shopping, just to be alone. Or how I started writing again, silly stories, emotional ones, and kept them hidden in a password-protected folder on my laptop. He used to ask questions. He used to notice. But slowly, quietly, those questions stopped coming. And then one night, maybe 6 months ago, we were having dinner, just the two of us, and he reached across the table, took my hand, and said, "Claire, are you happy?" I should have said something real. I should have told him about the ache in my chest, the loneliness that crept in even when we were lying side by side. I should have said, "No, I'm not." But instead, I smiled, squeezed his hand, and lied. "Of course I am." That moment sticks with me like a splinter under my skin. Because that's when I knew something had truly changed. Not just between him and me, but inside me. I wasn't just unhappy. I was divided. There was the woman he still saw, wife, mother, partner, and then there was the version of me I kept tucked away, only visible in quiet moments and secret thoughts. That version of me was starving for something I couldn't name. And the thing I'd been hiding, the part he walked in on, didn't start in some dramatic, explosive way. It started with a look. A conversation. A laugh that lingered too long. But that's for later. For now, all I can say is this: I didn't plan to betray him. I never imagined I'd be the kind of woman who kept secrets in the dark. But once the door cracks open, even just a little, sometimes, you can't close it again. And Marcus, he walked in before I could shut that door. Before I could pretend again. And everything changed. Forever. Marcus is a paramedic. 12-hour shifts, back-to-back calls, midnight alarms. He saves strangers' lives while forgetting how to ask me how mine's going. I used to admire the way his mind worked in crisis, calm, direct, strong. But lately, it's like he's stuck in triage mode at home too. He wants quick fixes. Easy answers. But I don't need fixing. I need feeling. One night, he came home late. I was folding laundry in the dim light of our bedroom, trying to piece together a day that felt like it had slipped through my fingers. He dropped his bag, kicked off his boots, and walked over, wrapping his arms around my waist from behind. His touch used to ignite something in me. But now it felt like I was being claimed, not cherished. I stiffened, just slightly, but he noticed. "You okay?" he asked, his lips brushing my neck. "I'm just tired," I said. He kissed me anyway. A little deeper, slower, testing if I'd respond. I didn't. I couldn't. My body was there, but my mind was racing through things he'd missed, how I cried in the shower that morning, how I'd sent him a photo of our daughter's school project and he didn't reply, how I spent 40 minutes staring at a blinking cursor before giving up on writing anything at all. Again. He pulled away. "You're always tired," he said, voice flat. I wanted to scream. Of course I'm tired. Tired of pretending. Tired of not being asked the right questions. Tired of being touched before being heard. But instead, I folded a towel. Neatly. Quietly. It's not that Marcus doesn't love me. I know he does. It's that he shows love in ways that I don't feel anymore. He buys me flowers on the 17th of every month, our anniversary day. He fills my gas tank without asking. He touches my lower back when we walk through a crowd. But when I open up about my writing, he doesn't ask to read it. When I try to talk about how disconnected I feel, he pulls me into bed, thinking sex will melt it all away. But for me, desire begins with being known. Not groped. I remember another night, it wasn't dramatic, just illustrative. We were watching a movie, something heavy and beautifully written. One of the characters broke down in a monologue that cracked me open from the inside out. I was quiet afterward, wiping away a tear. Marcus chuckled lightly and said, "You're always so sensitive, babe." It wasn't cruel. But it cut. Because yes, I am sensitive. And once, that's what he loved about me. Now, it feels like something he doesn't know how to hold. A week later, we fought about dinner. Dinner. He'd picked up takeout without asking what I wanted, again, and when I sighed, just a little, he exploded. "You always look at me like I'm failing some test I didn't know I was taking." I stared at him. Not with anger, but with exhaustion. "I'm not testing you, Marcus. I don't know how to tell you what I need anymore." His shoulders dropped. "Then try. Please. I can't read your mind." But I had tried. Over and over. I'd left breadcrumbs. I'd opened doors. I'd even asked, softly, carefully, if he'd ever consider therapy together. He'd laughed. "We're not that bad, are we?" "No, Marcus. We're not that bad. We're worse, because we're quiet. Because we look fine. Because the sex still happens sometimes, even if it feels hollow. Because we know how to make people think we're solid. Even ourselves. But underneath, we are quietly eroding. And this is the place where infidelity is born. Not in hatred. Not in passion. In neglect. In the cracks between what's said and what's felt. He was trying, in his own way. But he didn't see that every time he touched me without asking what was underneath, he pushed me further away. I didn't want to cheat. I wanted to be seen. But wanting, it wasn't enough. Because eventually, someone else did see me. And that's when everything started to unravel. It was a Wednesday night. The kids were at Marcus's mom's for a midweek sleepover, something they'd begged for, and we finally gave in. We should have taken it as a rare gift, a night alone, no interruptions. A chance to reconnect. Instead, I felt like I was walking into a scene I'd already memorized, predictable lines, predictable beats. We ordered Thai. He cracked open a beer and handed me a glass of wine, his attempt at something romantic, I suppose. He even lit a candle in the middle of the dining table. "Look at us," he said, smiling. "Almost feels like a date, huh?" I smiled back. Forced. "Yeah. Almost." He didn't catch the flatness in my voice. Or maybe he did and decided to ignore it. Marcus was good at skipping over discomfort. He always chose solutions over feelings. We ate mostly in silence, except for the occasional "this is good" or "did you see that email from the school?" Afterward, I was rinsing our plates when I felt him behind me. His hand slid around my waist, lips brushing the back of my shoulder. I closed my eyes, tensing without meaning to. "Hey," he said softly, like he was inviting me into something familiar. His palms moved to my hips, anchoring me against him. I didn't move. I just stared at the dishwater swirling down the drain. "Claire," he whispered, kissing my neck, "we finally have the house to ourselves." "Come on," he wasn't being pushy. Not really. Not in the way that would make it easy to say no. He was being hopeful. Gentle. Loving. But it felt like pressure. Every touch made my skin feel tighter, not warmer. Every kiss asked something of me I didn't know how to give. He turned me around to face him, cupped my face in both hands. His thumbs brushed my cheeks. "God, you're still so beautiful," he said. "You don't even know, do you?" I managed a half smile. "Thanks." He leaned in for a kiss, slow, purposeful. The kind that's supposed to remind you of how things once felt. I kissed him back. I did. But inside, I felt nothing. Or maybe worse, confusion. A tangled mix of guilt and distance and grief. I didn't want to pull away. But I wasn't really there, either. When his hand slid down to my lower back and gave me that familiar squeeze, the one that always meant more, I stiffened. Just slightly. Just enough. He noticed. His brow furrowed. "What is it?" "Nothing," I said too fast. "I'm just not, I'm tired, that's all." He took a step back. Ran a hand through his hair. "You're always tired," he muttered, not angry, but clearly deflated. I bit the inside of my cheek, arms crossed over my chest. I hated this version of us, this awkward dance between his need and my reluctance. "Marcus, I love you." "I do. I'm just. I need to feel close to you before what?" he interrupted. "Before I touch you? Before I even try to be with you?" "That's not what I'm saying." "Then what are you saying, Claire?" "Because lately, every time I so much as hold your hand, you tense up like I'm hurting you." I looked away. He sighed and turned toward the hallway. "Forget it. I'm not gonna beg for affection in my own house." I didn't follow him. I just stood there in the kitchen, arms still crossed, heart thudding with frustration and shame. I wanted to want him. But I didn't. And the thought sat in my stomach like lead. In the silence, I whispered to no one, why does everything have to turn into sex? It was supposed to be a good night. Marcus had made reservations at the new place downtown, the one with moody lighting and $18 cocktails I always pretend to enjoy. He wore the blue shirt I once told him made his eyes pop, and he even shaved, the clean, crisp kind of effort I hadn't seen in a while. And I tried. I curled my hair. Put on the dress he liked, the one with the low back and flutter sleeves. I told myself I could do this. Be present. Let the night soften the cracks between us. The conversation started light, work stuff, the kids, something stupid about the neighbors. He reached for my hand across the table and squeezed it. You look amazing tonight, he said. Thanks, I murmured, trying to let the compliment land. Then he leaned in, voice low. Maybe after dessert, we can finally pick up where we left off the other night? And something in me snapped. I didn't mean to. God, I didn't mean to. But I pulled my hand away a little too quickly. My fork clattered onto the plate, and suddenly, I was blinking hard against tears that had no business showing up at a table with white linens and waiters in pressed aprons. Marcus sat back. What's wrong? I don't know, I whispered. I don't know, can we not do this tonight? He looked genuinely confused. Do what? I thought we were finally having a nice night. I swallowed hard. Why does everything have to end in sex with you, Marcus? The table fell silent. Around us, the clinking of glasses and soft music felt too loud, too normal. What? He said, blinking. I said, I lowered my voice but not my anger. Why is it that every time you're kind to me, every time we talk, it has to end with you wanting something physical? Can't it just be about me? About us? His mouth opened, then closed. Claire, that's not fair. That's not what I meant. God, I miss you. I looked down at my plate. The salmon I barely touched. The perfectly folded napkin clutched in my lap like armor. Do you even know me anymore? I asked, not lifting my eyes. Do you even want to know me, or do you just want access to the version of me you used to have? He was quiet for a moment. Then came the quiet, stinging reply, Are you seriously punishing me for wanting my wife? I flinched like he'd slapped me. Punishing you? I laughed, but it came out hollow. Marcus, I'm punishing myself. Every day. I try to fake it, to pretend I'm still that woman who couldn't wait for your hands on her. But I'm not. I haven't been for a long time, and you haven't even noticed. He leaned forward, voice low, hurt. So what have you been doing, Claire? That's when the shame burned up through my cheeks. Because for a moment, I heard the unspoken accusation behind his question. I heard it in my own head. What have you been doing, Claire? After dinner, we drove home in silence. I stared out the window the whole time, replaying my words, my tone, the disbelief on his face. Back in our bedroom, I sat on the edge of the bed, slowly wiping the makeup from my face. I didn't feel better. I felt empty. The kind of empty that follows a storm when everything's still standing, but drenched, damaged, not quite the same. Marcus didn't say much. Just changed into sweatpants, climbed into bed, and turned off his bedside lamp without so much as a good night. I lay there in the dark, guilt pressing heavy against my ribs. I could hear his breathing. Slow. Measured. Not quite asleep. What scared me most wasn't that I'd hurt him. It was that a part of me didn't feel sorry for saying it. Because for once, I hadn't swallowed it down. I hadn't played nice. I had spoken from the rawest part of myself, the part I'd been hiding for years. And still, somewhere deep down, I wondered. Was that the moment he began to suspect? Was that the moment I stopped being forgivable? The days after the restaurant blow-up passed like a fog rolling through our house, silent, heavy, and hard to see through. Marcus didn't raise his voice. He didn't shut doors or slam cabinets. He just went quiet. That kind of quiet hurts more than yelling. We moved around each other like strangers performing a careful choreography. He made the coffee, left mine on the counter. I folded the laundry, left his clothes in a neat stack on the dresser. The kids noticed, of course. Kids always do. But they were smart enough, or maybe just used to it enough, not to ask. I watched him in moments he didn't know I was looking. The way his shoulders slumped slightly when he got off a late shift. How he would pause in the hallway outside our bedroom before walking in, as if bracing for something. The way he stopped reaching for me in bed. He was hurting. And I hated myself for being the cause. It wasn't that I didn't love him. I did. I still do. But love isn't always loud. Sometimes it's a quiet ache you carry because you can't find your way back to it. I missed him. I missed laughing with him in the kitchen while we danced around dinner prep. I missed the comfort of his hand on the small of my back when we walked through crowded spaces. I missed the easy way we used to touch, like second nature. But I couldn't bring myself to touch him now. Not because I didn't want to, but because I didn't know how to do it without lying. One evening, I found him sitting on the back deck, staring into the dark yard with a beer in one hand and his phone in the other. The porch light threw long shadows across his face, and he looked older, not in years, but in spirit. I stepped outside quietly, the wooden floorboards creaking beneath my feet. He didn't look up. "Want some company?" I asked. He shrugged. "It's a free country." I sat beside him anyway, leaving a small space between us. Enough to breathe. "I know things have been hard," I said. He took a sip of his drink. "Yeah. I didn't mean to hurt you." He turned his head then, not quite facing me but close enough. "You think I don't know you've been pulling away for years?" I swallowed. "I thought maybe if I kept trying, you'd come back." Those words. So simple. So honest. They gutted me. "I don't even know what I want anymore," I said. My voice cracked, embarrassingly raw. "Sometimes I miss you so much it physically hurts. And other times, I feel like I'm suffocating." He nodded slowly. "That makes two of us." Silence again. But this one felt different. Less angry. More resigned. Later that night, I watched him sleep from my side of the bed, the side that felt colder now, emptier. His breathing was soft, even. He looked peaceful, and it made my chest tighten. This man had carried me through sickness, through pregnancy, through loss. He had loved me through versions of myself even I didn't understand. And I had, in my own way, loved him back. But somewhere along the way, the love had stopped flowing between us. Like a river blocked by too many years of debris. I missed him. But missing someone isn't the same as being able to reach them. So I lay there, wide awake, asking myself the question I had avoided for so long: do I want to try again? Or is it time to let go of the version of us I keep hoping will come back? And I didn't have the answer. Not yet. But I knew a decision was coming. One I couldn't avoid forever. It was a Saturday when I knew. Really knew. The kids were at a birthday party across town. I stood in the living room folding towels while Marcus sat on the edge of the couch, scrolling through something on his phone. The air between us was heavy but not angry, just vacant. Like the house was slowly forgetting we'd ever filled it with laughter. I wanted to say something. Anything. But when I looked at him, I saw it. The distance. Not in his body, but in his eyes. He wasn't mad. He wasn't resentful. He had just stopped waiting for me. And in that quiet, something inside me broke wide open. I think we're too far gone, I whispered. Marcus looked up. His expression didn't change. No shock. No hurt. Just the dull ache of someone who already knew. I know, he said simply. I sat down next to him, close enough that our knees touched. He didn't pull away, but he didn't lean in either. I never stopped loving you, I said. He nodded, slowly. I never stopped either. I just think, maybe we stopped seeing each other. Tears welled in my eyes, and I blinked fast, because I didn't want them to spill. Not now. Not here. This wasn't a scene from a movie. This was the quiet ending no one talks about, when two good people run out of road. I didn't mean to hurt you, I said. I've just been so lost. I know, he said again, softer this time. And I think part of me stopped showing up too. I thought if I just kept touching you, it would remind you how we used to be. I let out a shaky breath. It didn't. He nodded. I know that now. For a moment, we just sat there, still, silent, knees touching. And then he did something I didn't expect. He leaned over and kissed me. Not a passionate kiss, not an invitation, but a soft, final kind of kiss. Right on my forehead. A goodbye in disguise. Then he stood and grabbed a pillow from the love seat. I'll sleep on the couch tonight, he said, like it was the most natural thing in the world. And he did. He lay there with a blanket half pulled over him, feet hanging off the end, staring at the ceiling like a man who had run every mile he could, and finally stopped. I stood in the doorway a long time that night, watching him. And I realized, the thing he walked in on, the thing I'd been hiding for years, wasn't another man, or some dirty secret. It was the truth. I'd left this relationship long before I ever physically left the room. And now, he had too. You know, when people talk about infidelity, they usually picture something loud, lipstick on a collar, texts found late at night, hotel rooms. They think betrayal looks like sex. Like lies. Like guilt. But sometimes, betrayal is quiet. Sometimes, it's the silence between two people who once knew each other's breath. It's years of slow forgetting. And the most heartbreaking part? You don't even notice it's happening, until it already has. I didn't cheat in the traditional sense. There was no other man. No scandal. But I was unfaithful to the truth of who I was. And eventually, that became a kind of infidelity all its own. For years, I performed the role. Wife. Mother. Partner. I checked the boxes. Kept the schedule. I smiled when I was supposed to smile. I said I love you when I meant it, and sometimes when I didn't. But inside, I was starving. Not for attention. Not even for sex. I was starving for emotional intimacy, the kind that comes from being known, seen, understood. Desire, I've learned, doesn't live in the bedroom. It lives in the quiet moments. When someone looks at you and really sees you. When they ask, not just how your day was, but how your heart is. When they touch you, not because they want something, but because they miss you. I used to think Marcus stopped loving me. But the truth is more complicated. He loved me the only way he knew how. Through acts of service. Through routine. Through trying to maintain the life we built like it was a house that just needed regular cleaning. He was doing what he thought a good man does. But what I needed was vulnerability. Curiosity. Effort not just in gestures, but in understanding. I should have said something earlier. I should have screamed instead of going silent. I should have told him the truth before the distance between us turned into a canyon I couldn't cross. But I didn't. And so I pulled away, little by little. First emotionally. Then physically. Then spiritually. And when he walked in that day, into the room where I'd been crying alone, reading old journal entries, clutching pieces of myself I hadn't shown him in years, he didn't catch me with another man. He caught me leaving. Emotionally, I was already gone. And the pain in his eyes that day. I'll never forget it. We didn't have a dramatic ending. No explosive goodbye. Just quiet understanding. A soft unraveling of what we once were. And you know what? I think that's almost sadder. I don't regret loving Marcus. He was a good man. A kind man. But we grew apart in all the ways that matter, and neither of us had the tools to stop it. What I've learned is this: love without emotional intimacy becomes performance. Desire without connection becomes pressure. And silence, when left unchecked, becomes betrayal. Now, when I think about relationships, my future ones, if there will be any, I don't dream of fireworks. I dream of presence. Of sitting across from someone who looks at me and says, I want to know you. Not just what you do, not just what you give, but who you are when no one's watching. Because that kind of love? It's rare. But it's the only kind that can last. If you're listening to this, and you're in something that feels off, not broken, just off, say something. Don't wait. Don't wait for a moment that wakes you up too late. Don't let someone walk in and discover your absence before you've found the courage to speak your truth. Because sometimes, what we hide the longest isn't a secret. It's ourselves. And by the time someone notices, we're already gone.